Hello everyone. This is the sixth part of the story, Blade God of Blood, Chapter 11 Punisher Part 2. Go back and fire the steward who reviewed these people, Bert said angrily. Is the Black Widow a Kazakh? Then Captain America is a Hydra? It seems that S.H.I.E.L.D. still has a lot of secrets within the vampire clan. Natalie Rushman, the pseudonym of Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff. Names can be changed, but pictures can't be. Mercury was taken aback. Is there something wrong with her? Bert sneered. Black Widow, the top agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., do you think there is a problem? What Black Widow? Is she the Black Widow famous in the dark world? Mercury was very shocked, and then her eyes shot up with murderous intent. I want to kill her. Bert put down his laptop and said, No, recruit her as a secretary. Mercury was puzzled. Blood God, why do you want to recruit her even knowing that she is the Black Widow? Should I tell you that I'm greedy for her body? Now is the peak of Black Widow's beauty. It's a waste to not know about it. Bert complained secretly, he said. S.H.I.E.L.D. will not give up on monitoring us. Instead of letting them continue to send another unknown one, it is better to choose someone we know. That steward will not deal with it for the time being, and after a while, find an excuse to arrest him and get rid of. Wouldn't it be too dangerous? That's the Black Widow? Mercury said. It's okay to inquire about the information. What if she attacked you? Don't worry, I won't die. Bert smiled confidently. How about hundreds of lives? Do you think you're joking? Hearing this, Mercury could only agree. She thought of something and suggested. Blood God, do you want to test Ms. Carter with this? She must know that the woman is a Black Widow. I have an agreement with Carter that she will not tell me anything related to S.H.I.E.L.D., and I will not use her against S.H.I.E.L.D. Bert shook his head and said, Mercury, don't think too much, we need Carter now. Yes, Blood God. Mercury bowed his head unwillingly, but he did not give up the idea of defeating Carter at all. That woman is too powerful. If she didn't fall, pure blood will have no future. Bert knew this well, but he didn't stop it, because he needed both sides to restrain each other. On this day, Frank was in a good mood until he opened the file that Bert gave him in the study, and after just a few glances, his blood rushed to his forehead, his face was flushed, his blue veins appeared, and his muscles twitching, his hair almost stood up. It's not that Frank had a big reaction, but the information recorded in those documents is really appalling. Someone inside the U.S. military smuggled illegal drugs from the Middle East into the country. In order to avoid being discovered, they hollowed out the bodies of the dead soldiers and put illegal drugs inside, because no one would examine the remains of the dead soldiers. There is no doubt that this is a conscience thing, but anyone with a bit of humanity would never do such a thing. But some people do it. Not only that, to eradicate opponents and kill those who know about it, these people use their power to set up a special team to gather the unwitting elites in the army and let them do the dirty work. This operation is called Operation Ghost Dog, and unfortunately, Frank Castle is the captain of this operation team. Frank's friend, Billy Russo, is the vice captain of the action team, but unlike Frank, he is an insider. For the money, he chooses to conspire. Now, those scumbags are going to clear out the people in Operation Ghost Dog, so that no one will know the scandal they have done. This information is very detailed, and even lists the evidence. Frank's old boss, a pseudonymous blacksmith, is now selling illegal drugs in Hell's Kitchen, and Mrs. Gao of the Hand Union has lost her business. In addition, some soldiers in Operation Ghost Dog have died. How dare they? Frank trembled with anger. He couldn't even catch the documents. His whole person was like a volcano about to erupt. He had seen a lot of darkness in his life, but he never thought that someone could be so despicable and shameless. To actually use the corpses of heroes to transport such things, and to use the patriotism of the soldiers to help them eradicate the enemy, and even to silence them afterward. The devil in hell is just like that, right? If this is true, I will kill those bastards. Frank finally couldn't bear it anymore and slammed his fist on the table. The table made of solid wood was directly smashed into a big hole by him. You can imagine how angry he was. The big news from the study frightened Maria. As she rushed towards the study, she shouted, "Frank, what's the matter?" Maria's voice made Frank instantly recover from his anger. He took a deep breath and shouted as gently as possible, "It's okay, Maria, the table is broken, I'll just fix it myself." Maria knew something was wrong, but she still stopped and said through the door, "Frank, the children are going to bed, you can do it tomorrow." "It's okay, I won't disturb them, you go to sleep first." Frank said that after Maria left, he exhaled, took out a book from the shelf, opened it, and there was an old phone inside. After hesitating for a while, Frank picked up the phone and dialed it out, and a deep voice soon came from inside. "Frank?" Frank said. "It's me, help me check one thing." How could someone be so depraved? The other party was shocked after hearing what Frank said. He said, "Wait for me for 6 hours, and I will give you an answer." "Okay, I'll wait for you for 6 hours." Frank nodded. Only a few can get information about things of this magnitude that alone in 6 hours. His friend was one of them because he was Nick Fury. Few people know that Frank and Nick Fury are friends. In fact, Frank has had several private affairs with Nick Fury. Putting down the phone, Frank sat weakly on the chair. This sitting lasted for 3 full hours. He was not only angry but also guilty. He used to think that all the bad people he killed were bad people. Unexpectedly, he killed so many good people. Frank, even though he was the damned one. And Billy, he is such a person! Frank grabbed his hair in pain, and could not wait to pick up the machine gun and shoot at this group of people. They all should go to hell. 3 hours later, Nick Fury called Frank and told him to go out. There was a car waiting for him. Frank did so. To his surprise, Nick Fury was in the car. Frank got into the car, didn't close the door, and asked in a deep voice, "You came in person to show that the document is true, right?" Director Fury said, "Yes, we caught the blacksmith, that is, your old boss. He recruited them all. Your information is true. It is good." Frank nodded expressionlessly, ready to get out of the car and work with a gun. "Those people are going to die." "Frank!" Chief Fury hurriedly pressed the button, the door closed automatically, and he shouted, "Don't you think about Maria and the 2 children? If you kill them, you will become a wanted criminal, a murderer." Frank, who was about to get out of the car, froze instantly. If Nick Fury said something else, he wouldn't care at all, but family will always be his weakness. Frank turned around, gritted his teeth, and asked, "Why do you want to let them go?" "Of course not. I'll talk to the military and the director of the CIA in a while, and they'll give you an explanation, and none of the people on this list will live," Director Fury said. "However, this matter will not be made public. I believe you can understand that once it is made public, it will become a super scandal." Frank asked aloud angrily, "If I force it to be public, will you kill me too?" Director Fury patted Frank on the shoulder and said, "There are many shameless people in this world, but there are also many people with faith. Frank, don't think of the world too dark." Frank stared at Nick Fury for a while, took a deep breath, and said, "They all should die. They will all die." Director Fury assured him with great certainty. Frank nodded and wanted to leave, but Director Fury held him again. Facing Frank's puzzled eyes, Director Fury said, "Frank, I want you to do me a favor." Frank said, "No wonder you came to me in person. What are you doing? Tell me." Director Fury said, "I think you agreed to the request of the new patriarch of the vampire clan, the blood god Bert Wong, to become his bodyguard." "What?" Frank's eyes widened, his face full of astonishment. The new patriarch of the vampire clan, blood god? What the hell is this? Director Fury took out a document from the box next to him and handed it to Frank. Frank said with a look of disgust, "I don't want to accept the document now. The last document made me want to shoot myself." Turn the lights brighter. Why do you always like to stay in the dark?" Director Fury turned on the light and said, "This is mysterious and can scare people." "Your look is scary enough, eh?" Is that kid really a vampire? After reading the document, Frank looked sluggish. What happened to this world? The vampires have all run out, and he is still looking for himself to learn actual combat. Director Fury said, He really is, and now he has become the head of vampires. Your ability to teach students is really high. Frank put down the document and asked, It seems that he will be charged a little more for tuition. By the way, he said he saved the world, is that true? Save the world? That is to say, Wong Bert is not there, otherwise, Director Fury will definitely spray him on his face. Without him, the vampire clan will be pacified. How can there be so many things? Do you still have the face to say that you saved the world? How can people be so thick-skinned? Director Fury said with a dark face. He is a great threat, Frank. I hope you can help me. Frank refused without any hesitation. I'm sorry, I can't help you. I never betray friends. When did he become your friend? From the time he gave me the documents, he became my friend. I owe him a truth, a life. Seeing that he couldn't persuade Frank, Director Fury could only throw out the killer. Frank, he is very dangerous, you know? He has a nuclear bomb in his hand. Frank was taken aback. Nuclear bomb? Is this too exaggerated? Director Fury said very seriously. No exaggeration, Frank, I need you to help me save the world. This world is so fragile, and does it need people to save it every day? Frank was a little irritable. He said, Bert isn't a man who would bomb the world with a nuclear bomb. He's not that crazy. But we have to guard against that, and that's my job to stop a crisis before it happens. Director Fury said, Besides, vampires have always wanted to turn us, humans, into slaves again. Although Bert Wong has no such signs, for the time being, we must take precautions. Frank snorted coldly. Nick, in your eyes, everyone is a bad person, right? I said this is my job. Director Fury said, Frank, I didn't ask you to be a spy, I asked you to be an insurance. If one day, Bert Wong wants to destroy the world, or turn humans into slaves, then we can do it in time. Everything to stop him. Frank slammed the door in annoyance, and made a loud banging sound. Why do you always encounter this kind of shit? After thinking for a while, Frank said, I will not pass information about him to you, but if he wants to destroy the world, I will stop him. Okay, that's enough. Director Fury breathed a sigh of relief and finally buried a safety nail beside Wong Bert. For this blood god, he never let down his guard. This person is too mysterious, Director Fury. What he dislikes the most is uncontrollable, mysterious people. The next morning, in the coffee shop, Natasha Romanoff, who came to report to Bert Wong's court. Natalie, pseudonym, why do you want to be a vampire? Because I want to be beautiful forever. Natasha turned around gracefully in front of Bert, showing off her perfect figure to the fullest. To be honest, Bert's eyes were a bit straight. At this time, it was indeed the pinnacle of Black Widow. Wong Bert smiled, asked the waiter beside him to serve a cup of coffee, then put a drop of his blood in it, raised his hand to Natasha, and said, Please. Natasha didn't hesitate, she asked happily, Boss, are you planning to grant me eternal life now? No, I need a human secretary now. I can't turn you into a vampire for the time being. Bert said, This drop of blood will merge with your blood, and it will turn you into a vampire when I need it. In addition, it can guarantee your safety. If you die accidentally, it will resurrect you. Thank you, boss. Natasha raised her coffee cup with joy, but prayed secretly in her heart. I hope the antidote to prevent becoming a vampire is useful. If it's not, then everything will be ruined. I always get the most difficult task. Hey, there's no way. Who let me pay equal attention to wisdom and beauty? Very good, we will be our own from now on. You can call me the blood god or the patriarch. Bert sensed the fusion of his blood and Natasha's blood, and nodded with satisfaction. He said, I want you to do this first thing for me now. Natasha put down the cup and said shrewdly, Blood god, please order. Bert took out Maxim magazine and said, Tell me about the cover girl of this Maxim magazine. I'm going on a date with her this afternoon. What? Natasha was a little surprised. Is this kind of thing? Didn't Fury say that this kid is very shrewd? Why is this virtue? Also, when a beautiful woman like himself stood in front of him, he didn't want to take her first but asked her to help him find a woman. Did his brain circuit got fried? Anyway, get this job done first. Natasha was about to speak when a man walked in accompanied by Mercury. He smiled and said, I didn't expect you and Tony Stark to have the same taste as the cover girl of Maxim magazine. It's Frank Castle. Tony Stark is the rich man I know best, so I want to learn his way of life and see if it works for me. Bert got up and shook hands with Frank, and said with a smile, Instructor Castle, please don't tell me that you are ready to promise me. I will die of joy. Vampires shouldn't die so easily, Frank said with some emotion. Bert, I never dreamed that everything you told me was true. You finally know, ha ha ha. Unfortunately, I didn't see your expression at that time. I've been waiting. Bert laughed and said, Instructor Castle, let me introduce myself formally, the new patriarch of the vampire clan, the blood god Bert Wong. Frank said, Someone told me, a big guy who helped me deal with those bastards. Bert was a little surprised. Big man? Do you want my help to deal with those guys? No, and they won't end well. Speaking of those bastards, Frank's face was a little heavy, and then he shook his head and said, Bert, you told me the truth and saved my life. I can be your bodyguard, but I want to ask you first, do you want to turn all human beings into slaves? Natasha listened attentively. Bert laughed, and he said, Frank, do you know what kind of person in this world does not want the world to be destroyed? What kind of person? Rich people who want what they want. Bert said eloquently. I am a rich man now, or one of the top ones in the world. I make a phone call, and more than 50% of Hollywood actresses will be delivered to my door obediently. With one word, I can decide the jobs of tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of people. My shoes are dirty, and countless people will want to help me clean them. Most men in the world want to be rich like me, and countless beauties in the world want to be my woman, such as our world-class beautiful secretary. Bert pointed at Natasha. Natasha cursed inwardly, but had to go up and kiss Bert's cheek, and then said excitedly, Blood God, everything I have belongs to you. Frank blew a whistle, and even he had to admit that Natasha was a first-class beauty, prettier than Hollywood actresses, and of course, a little worse than his Maria. His Maria is the most beautiful in the world, no, in the universe. Bert put his arms around Natasha and laughed loudly. Frank, in this case, how many times do you think I have to be kicked in the head by a donkey before I want to destroy the world? Frank said with a smile. It's probably just kicking the head to pieces, right? Of course not. Bert laughed, letting go of Natasha, sat down, and said, Even, I will take the initiative to protect this world. If this world is destroyed, where can I enjoy it? Indeed. Frank nodded in agreement, and Natasha also nodded secretly. If she was as rich as the other party, she would not destroy the world. She wanted to summon all the men in the NBA to sweat in front of her. She likes men. As for turning all human beings into slaves, not only have I never thought about this, but I will also prevent other vampires from doing so. To be honest, that kind of vampire who always thinks he is superior to others is super disgusting. Bert shook his head and said once about his reform of vampires. After listening to Frank, he scolded Nick Fury in his heart. Bert has achieved this level, yet you still doubt him. Your heart is indeed black. Bert, I'll officially take over this job. As for the army, I'll handle it myself, Frank said. However, I declare in advance that I will not do bad things for you, and I will not turn a blind eye to bad things. No problem. Bert smiled and said, Mercury, hurry up and get the contract from yesterday. Don't let Frank have the chance to regret it. The Punisher joined the team. Chapter 12, Tony Stark. Although there were objections to Frank's joining, Mercury has no way to change Bert's decision, so she can only turn around and go out to get the contract and let Frank sign it. Frank turned over the contract and said in surprise, "In addition to being your bodyguard, I also want to be an instructor at the Blood God Security Company?" Bert said, "Yes, the Blood God Security Company is an escort company composed of vampires and the familiars of the vampire clan. If you are free, help me train them. In the future, you will also need to lead them to fight for me. It seems that $1 million annual salary is not easy to earn." Frank signed his name and said, "I declare in advance that I am good at tough battles, the kind with a lot of movement. Let me lead the team, and you want to figure out how to end it. Don't worry, under normal circumstances, there is no need to prevent you from taking action." Bert smiled and said, "Mercury, call the snowman and let him take Frank to visit the security company, and meet the team members by the way. Natalie, hand over the contract to the legal department." "Yes, Blood God." Natasha and Mercury agreed at the same time. Then, Mercury called someone, and Natasha took the contract to the temporary legal department upstairs. After the contract was delivered, Natasha went to the bathroom and took out a needle from the vanity case. Don't get me wrong, she just drew a little of her blood. "Bert, didn't you think of it? That Nick Fury has long wanted your blood." Natasha smiled slightly. Then, she put the needle back in the vanity case, pressed the toilet, got up, and left the bathroom. She didn't know, but Bert saw everything that just happened. Don't get me wrong, Bert is not so filthy about peeping things in the bathroom. The reason why he can see it is that at a certain distance, he can sense the surrounding situation through his blood. It seems to be even worse. "Want my blood? Keep dreaming, my blood is alive. If it doesn't want to be taken away, no one can take it away." Bert sneered secretly, and after a while, Mercury walked in with a snowman in a leather coat. This snowman looks the same as Donnie Yen. In fact, in Blade 2, he is played by Donnie Yen and is the subordinate of the big villain, Grand Duke Damaskinos, vampire overlord Eli Damaskinos in the movie. At this point, he was still mixed with the vampire races in North America, and he didn't go to the Grand Duke Damaskinos. Seeing that he was an acquaintance, and his strength was good, Bert promoted him to the head of the security company. Bert introduced each other. "Snowman, this is Frank. Frank, this is Snowman. You will be colleagues in the future. Let's get to know each other." The Snowman and Frank shook hands and said slightly provocatively, "We are looking forward to Instructor Castle teaching us." "I'm looking forward to teaching you too." Frank grinned. He likes thorns the most. The harder the thorns, the more interesting it is to train. Bert smiled and said, "Okay, I have an appointment, Frank. You should get acquainted with the security company for a few days, and then come and help me. As for welfare, Natalie will help you arrange it. You will never be disappointed." "It is good." Frank nodded, followed the snowman to leave the cafe, and headed to the security company. After they left, Mercury said, "Blood God, Kingpin called me this morning and said that he wanted to buy the long-term rental apartment we acquired, and the price could go up by 30%. We have dealings with Kingpin?" Bert was surprised that Kingpin was the underground emperor in New York, Daredevil's #1 enemy, and 40% of all crimes in the United States were related to him. Kingpin was not his real name, but a title, meaning emperor. "Kingpin, help us bring some food in from time to time." Mercury said the food for vampires is naturally living. "Human trafficking." Bert sneered. He thought about it, and said, "The one who wants to rent an apartment for a long time should not be that fat man." "But the Hand." Mercury frowned. "The Hand Association? Those ninjas who are said to be able to keep resurrecting?" Bert asked. "They don't have business dealings with us, do they?" Mercury said simply, "They have also delivered food, and many vampires are addicts. It's so degenerate, no wonder the combat power is so poor." Bert snorted and said, "Reject Kingpin, that is our future headquarters, and we won't sell it for any money." "It is good." Mercury nodded. "It seems that the chi in that place is really good, otherwise, there would not be so many people fighting." She went to check the meaning of chi last night. but her mind was even more confused. After thinking for a while, Bert said, "Tell that fat man, we are not interested in Hell's Kitchen, and he will not participate in the matter of our meeting with Hand." Mercury said proudly, "Kingpin doesn't dare to provoke us, we are the kings of the dark world. Pure blood still hasn't learned the lesson." Bert was used to the superiority of the vampire clan. He waved his hand and motioned for Mercury to leave. Bert turned his chair and looked at the long-term rental apartment outside. His eyes narrowed. "He will probably have to fight. They won't give up the keel, and neither will I. Well, Madame Gao's Qigong, I have great interest. Bone marrow is a hematopoietic tissue, and the keel can greatly enhance Bert's strength. Of course, he will not give up. You must know that a complete keel might be buried under the long-term rental apartment. There is a very famous Michelin restaurant next to Times Square. On weekdays, it is always full of people, but today, there are only 2 guests, because Wang Bert has reserved the restaurant." Sitting opposite Wang Bert is Betsy, the cover girl of the issue of Maxim magazine. The atmosphere between the two was a little stiff at first, but because of Betsy's enthusiasm, Bert gradually let go, and now the atmosphere is quite harmony. The only problem is that Betsy likes to ask questions, always asking Bert what you do, what is your relationship with Universal Pictures, why their director will come to help to ask me out, and what kind of car you drive. Kind. Is this a blind date? This woman is too enthusiastic, and she doesn't need to be chased at all. It feels no different from those models some time ago, but it's just a bit higher grade, which is a little different from what you imagined." Bert was a little disappointed. It seemed that it was not good to be too rich, and he lost the joy of pursuing. "In the afternoon, I will take you to Universal Studios to find director Catherine." Wang Bert told some of his information, and Betsy immediately became more enthusiastic. At this time, the door of the restaurant creaked open, and a guy with a mustache who looked very arrogant walked in. Mustache guy looked around and said to the waiter on the side, "Why are there only 2 people? Is your restaurant going to close down?" The waiter hurriedly explained, "Mr. Stark, I'm sorry, someone has reserved the room today." That's right, it was Tony Stark who came here. He looked at Wang Bert and sneered. "Reservation? Why do some people want to reserve a table? They don't want to be disturbed. Wouldn't it be better to go home to eat? Is this guy here to find fault?" Bert raised his eyebrows and was about to speak when the manager beside him hurriedly came out and said, "Mr. Stark, I'm sorry, our boss wants to have dinner today and doesn't greet guests." Tony Stark was stunned. "Boss?" Bert got up and raised his hand and said, "For me, this is no different from my home, Mr. Stark, let's sit together." "Then I'll sit down and bring me a glass of red wine." Tony was a little unhappy, but he walked over and sat down. He was not surprised at all that Bert knew him. There were not many people in America who didn't know him. He is Tony Stark, the most attractive billionaire and genius in America. After sitting down, Tony looked at Miss Betsy with glowing eyes and pretended to say, "I seem to know you." "Hello, Mr. Stark, I'm Betsy, the cover girl of this issue of Maxim." Betsy introduced herself excitedly. Every cover girl wants to date Tony Stark, not only because of his attractiveness but also because it brings a lot of exposure. "Oh, I remember." Tony and Betsy shook hands, then turned to Bert, who was sitting down, and asked, "This gentleman, I'm surprised, you bring a cover girl, but you book a table for dinner, which is not the same as buying millions of dollars. What's the difference between the famous watch and not showing it to others?" Becky nodded in agreement. The cover girls should live under the flash. Bert motioned for the waiter to pour Tony's wine, and smiled. "You came here on purpose to ask me this question?" "Did I come here on purpose? Why didn't I know? I was just passing by." Tony naturally denied it. He came here on purpose. Who didn't know that he liked to look for the cover girl of Maxim magazine, and someone dared to grab it? But what about coming to see it? If Tony Stark doesn't have time, he allows others to steal the cover girl. But as long as he has time, the cover girl must be his, because he is Tony Stark. Maybe. Bert didn't expose Tony. He said, "The reason why I looked for her is mainly to try your way of life. However, I am a low-key person and don't like being watched, so I cleared the scene." Tony sneered. "Are you imitating me? Many people are imitating me in this world, but obviously, you are the worst one, and you don't even know that I like hilarity the most." Tony Stark at this time needs to be beaten, and the words with his nostrils upside down are specially prepared for him. Bert snorted coldly, and he sneered. "You like to be in the limelight, right?" Tony said proudly. "No, it's the limelight who likes to look for me. I, Tony Stark, never need to go out for the limelight." "Yes, Mr. Stark, where are you? Where is the news?" Betsy said admiringly. Tony glanced at Bert proudly, and chatted with Betsy enthusiastically. I have to say that although Tony Stark's tone is very annoying, he is indeed a very humorous guy who can tease girls very much. In just a short time, his eloquent words made Becky laugh several times. Bert watched Tony Stark's performance quietly, and didn't do much, because it was unnecessary. Seeing that the other party's limelight was completely taken away by himself, Tony Stark was very proud, and he didn't know what to say to grab the cover girl from himself. "Betsy, are you free this afternoon? I know a few directors who will go golfing with me." Tony sends out the invitation. He knows what a cover girl likes most. Tony wanted to pry Becky away from Bert. In his opinion, he was about to succeed. He even gave Bert a provocative look. It was just beyond Tony's expectations, but Becky was a little hesitant. She glanced at Bert and said apologetically to Tony, "I'm sorry, Mr. Stark, Mr. Bert has asked me to see Director Catherine first." Tony was taken aback. "Director Catherine? Who?" "A female director. I'm going to let her direct the Twilight. I shot at a high price before," Bert said slowly. "A youth romance film about werewolves and vampires." Tony looked disgusted. "Werewolves and vampires? Will anyone watch this kind of movie? The script is very good, and the director's ability is also very strong. As long as you find some handsome men and beauties, the box office will not be bad," Bert said. "Betsy is very suitable for a role in it. I believe that Director Catherine will give me this face. After all, I invested in this drama," Betsy introduced. "And Mr. Bert is also a shareholder of Universal Pictures." Bert shrugged. Actually, he is a major shareholder, but most people won't believe it. Tony's face was a bit ugly. He knew that he had failed. Although he was handsome, personable, and humorous, people could give Betsy an important female role, which is a little hard. For a cover girl like Betsy, this is irresistible, even if you are Tony Stark. After all, changing women is faster than changing clothes. Bert looked at Tony with a smile on his face, and Tony sensed the other party's ridicule dared to argue with me for a woman even with this little skill. "Boy, you're done!" Tony was instantly angry. He, Tony Stark, can't fight a country bumpkin? Tony said. "See the director or something. You can go tomorrow." "Bert, didn't you say you worship me? I'll take you to the Atlantic Casino to see it, where you'll see how I have fun." Bert thought for a while and said, "Although I don't worship you, I want to see what you do for fun. I just became a rich man, and I'm still not familiar with how to live the life of the rich." Tony exaggeratedly said, "It seems that you are the lucky one who inherited a huge fortune." Bert said, "Aren't you the same? You inherited the Stark Company too." "No, it was me who carried it forward." Tony stood up and said impatiently, "What are you waiting for? Let's drive a sports car over together. Hurry up, my sports car is not waiting for anyone." Bert said, "Don't worry, my sports car will wait for someone. I like to save face for the elderly." "Old man?" Tony's eyes widened sharply, staring at Bert. He dared to say that this genius who is popular with thousands of beauties is an old man. Is he courting death? This must be looking for death, right? Otherwise, Tony will look down on himself. "When I get to the casino, I'll teach this kid some manner. In the casino, with Jarvis' help, I'm invincible." Tony sneered secretly. What, he is cheating? No, undetected cheating is not cheating. This guy is really careful, but when you go to the casino with me, he is looking for abuse? Bert laughed dumbly. Tony Stark's prudence is something that everyone in America knows. Before he became Iron Man, he was scrupulous, and after he became Iron Man, he was the same. Speaking of which, he should soon become Iron Man, that is to say, the era of superheroes is coming soon. It seems that I have to speed up my pace. Bert's eyes flashed, his fingers under the table flicked, and a drop of blood flew out from between his fingers and landed on Tony Stark's palm, and then quickly penetrated it. Tony didn't notice it at all. He stood up and said, "Come on, let's go to Atlantic Casino." This marks the end of part 6 of the story, Blade God of Blood. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.